China lifts its ban on U.S. beef. Here ahead on Grow, what does this mean now for Nebraska ranchers? We'll have reaction. And we'll talk to the #1 man at the American Farm Bureau Federation and the #2 at the USDA about current challenges. And remember the legacy of a man called a champion of agriculture. Grow starts now. After a 13-year ban, Nebraska beef could soon be on tables in China. It was 2003 when a lone case of BSE prompted the Chinese to ban American beef. They did so despite the risk of being labeled as negligible. American ag leaders have questions on the exact protocol that will be followed now, but say things are looking up.
Yeah, by no means want to be skeptical or negative about that announcement. We're very excited for it, but also realistic that there's a process that we still have to go through. But there has been some indication that they want to do it before the end of the year, so that's very good news for the beef industry.
China is the fastest growing beef market in the world, and American beef used to be #1. But what was a $10 million annual market went away, and ag leaders say this is a step toward regaining this important market. Governor Ricketts says reopening the beef trade with China will have huge potential to help grow Nebraska and help Nebraska's farm and ranch families thrive in the years to come. He also looks forward to promoting Nebraska beef during his trade mission to China this fall. And trade was a hot topic as ag leaders from all across the country met in Nebraska this past week. NTV's Steve White had a chance to catch up with some of them.
This is a roller coaster ride.
You can hear Georgia in his voice, but Zippy Duvall speaks for farmers and ranchers across the country through the American Farm Bureau Federation. Times are tough.
I was around during the 80s when a very difficult time, and we're really concerned about our young people that's gotten into agriculture in the last 4 or 5 years.
The #2 man at the USDA is also worried.
It is very difficult today to get involved and to see a bright future where you can raise a family out on the farm.
And as ag leaders from all 50 states meet in Nebraska, one thing they'd like to see is passage of TPP, the Asian Free Trade Deal.
Every day it goes by, we're losing dollars back to our farmers and ranchers in our rural communities, and we're losing jobs to other countries. It's not going to wait on us.
Ag leaders think the much criticized deal could still get a vote.
And we're hoping that after the rhetoric of the election is over, cooler minds will prevail and we'll be able to have a honest discussion. You know, actually some of the issues that come up with weaknesses in current trade agreements are fixed in TPP.
And they're looking ahead to the 2018 Farm Bill after the last one passed 2 years behind schedule.
It was frustrating. That's the reason we're starting early. We're hoping we can cut out some of that frustration.
Whether growing fruit, specialty crops, or corn and cattle, American farmers face many of the same challenges.
We just tighten up our belt. We'll get to the next crop, and agriculture will be stronger for it.
And we will have more on that farm bill coming up later on in the show. Meanwhile, another issue, repairing bridges. As we are kicking off harvest here, those old bridges are needing repair, and it's becoming more apparent. The legislature has put $40 million in the budget to replace county bridges. Local engineers credit the governor and legislature for taking on the issue.
Right now, we are 5th in the nation in the number of structurally deficient bridges, and they want to put a dent in that number and move us out of 5th place and move us further back.
The state money will be matched by local funds and should help in rural areas, where many bridges have weight restrictions that can't accommodate farm machinery.
Right now, we're into harvest time, and anybody that's picking corn in this area has to go around this bridge when they've got grain in the truck because they can't go through it. Some of the other deficiencies we've got on our bridges is the width. This bridge is plenty wide so they can drive a combine over it if it passes the weight restrictions. But we've got a number of bridges where you can't get a wide piece of equipment over them.
The criteria will prioritize bridges that will save long-term on maintenance and are for bridges more than 20 feet long. Priorities were also laid out in a plan that promises to turn dirt on projects when it comes to repairing roads, and agriculture and safety were kept towards the top of the priority list. Priorities for the $300 million expressway project were announced by the governor this last week. One of those priorities is a section of highway from the McCook area towards North Platte, creating more safe passing lanes, especially for those operating ag equipment.
That the folks down there really expressed that if you've ever been to the southwest part of the state, you know that there's, the canyons and so forth that you go through there. And so allowing for those passing lanes is really important when you've got, say, farm equipment or something like that, or somebody driving slow, to be able to allow for that you don't have the congestion and really make it a safer way to be able to pass.
That section north of McCook is a 60-mile, $60 million section. You can hear more about the whole expressway on our website, nebraska.tv. Neighbors helping neighbors. A reporter from our sister station, Fox 42, takes a look at one man's final harvest.
We've just been out here taking out the corn crop.
We put in as much time as it's needed.
On June 1st, my father got diagnosed with stage 4 lung cancer. It broke my heart. My dad was my best friend. We did everything together.
The minute we knew that he passed, that this is where we were all headed.
It's an amazing thing that what happens in the farming community. It's a matter of neighbors getting together, helping each other out. I really don't know of any other industry or any other business that would where you would see this type of actions happening. It's truly a privilege to be able to be out here and help take out his last crop.
And they're willing to postpone their crops to get my dad's crops out.
So Bigfoot was Laverne's name, and he tagged it on everything that he's got.
He was the best of the best. And that's the goal of mine is to do such a wonderful job that Laverne had done.
Honestly, I'm just so thankful that they were there. I mean, I wouldn't have been able to do it without them.
Now, while we hope you have a bumper crop, here's to also being safe during harvest. A few friendly reminders for you. Nebraska State Patrol encourages people to pay attention on rural roads and highways. Slow-moving combines, grain carts, tractors, they'll be traveling for harvest. Also, for those operating farm implements, it is okay to travel on the shoulder of the road when you can. You should display slow-moving vehicle warning triangles and use those flashing yellow caution lights. If you are making a left turn out of a field, make sure to also watch for cars trying to pass. Flags across Nebraska here this Wednesday will fly at half-staff, honoring a man who dedicated a lot of his time towards farm policy. Bill Barrett served Central and Western Nebraska in Congress for about a decade and kept Lexington as his home. NTV's Steve White has more.
Bill Barrett spent more than 2 decades in public office, serving as a state senator, later Speaker of the legislature, and then moving to Congress, where he was a champion of farm policy. Nebraska was never far from the mind of Bill Barrett. He was born and raised in Lexington, where he later went into real estate. He served in the Navy, as well as graduating from Hastings College, often returning to see what was on the minds of young people.
Boy, these are some really neat kids, and I learn probably more than they do.
He may be best remembered for his work on agricultural policy, especially the landmark Freedom to Farm Bill.
96 Farm Bill will give them more freedom. And it's important in agriculture because agriculture has changed tremendously in the last 20 years.
It was a major departure away from subsidies. Barrett served on the House Agriculture Committee at the time, and when he retired, was honored with Nebraska Farm Bureau's highest honor.
Well, Bill Barrett was a friend of agriculture. He served in the legislature for a number of years and then went to Congress, and we could always depend upon him to listen to our concerns.
The former president of Nebraska Farm Bureau says he misses his visits with his old friend, who leaves behind a legacy of service to Nebraska.
Gracious person to talk to and willing to listen to your opinions and then share his opinions, and it was just, he's real valuable to the Nebraska agriculture, and he will be missed.
Barrett also served several terms in the unicameral, even a couple of terms as Speaker of the Legislature. Bill Barrett was 87.
Planning early this time on the Farm Bill. We're going to get a closer look at that coming up after the break. And later on, we get a one-on-one with the U.S. Deputy Secretary of Ag. And of course, we'll tell you what to expect this next week as you plan out your schedule in your grow forecast. Stay with us.